The mockery begins. The grand alien council chamber echoed with laughter. Representatives from countless alien species filled the vast hall, their voices merging into a hum of mockery. They were gathered to discuss Earth, a small blue planet in the far corner of the galaxy. It had been a long-standing joke among the galactic powers. How could such a primitive species, humans, be considered a threat? Look at them. One alien leader, an imposing figure with 4 glowing eyes, sneered. Their weapons are outdated. Their army barely stands a chance against any of us. A race so weak... it's laughable. The others in the council chamber roared with laughter. They'd all seen the news from across the galaxy, where Earth's military was described as outdated, weak, and barely capable of defending itself. Stories of human soldiers using ancient rifles and homemade technology made the aliens snicker. You're telling me that these humans could stand up to the might of the Draxian Empire? A deep voice boomed from the back of the room. It belonged to a reptilian general whose scaled face twisted into a cruel smile. They can barely fight their own wars. What would they do if they encountered an army like ours? The Draxians were one of the most feared military forces in the galaxy, known for their ruthless tactics and advanced weaponry. Their soldiers were taller than most species, with thick armor plated into their skin, and their weapons were capable of tearing through entire cities. They can't even travel faster than light without help, another alien scoffed. Their ships are slow, and their weapons are only effective in the atmosphere of their own planet. The chamber erupted into laughter again, as each species took turns mocking the humans. They were so far removed from Earth that they couldn't fathom how such a weak race could pose any threat. But amidst the jeers, one alien stayed silent. His arms crossed and eyes narrowed. Captain Noah, a human representative sent by Earth's government, stood before the council, unshaken by the laughter. His blue military uniform clung to his broad shoulders, his posture as straight as a rod. His eyes met the alien leaders without hesitation, his face stoic and calm. He had been chosen to represent Earth because of his strength and intelligence. But today, he faced something far more difficult, the ridicule of his people. The council leader, an elegant figure with shimmering silver skin, leaned forward and addressed Captain Noah. You have heard the stories, human. Your army is nothing. You are a primitive species. You rely on brute force and old technology. It is amusing how you believe you can protect your planet. Noah didn't flinch, he simply nodded. I understand your concerns, he said, his voice even but firm. But what you fail to understand is that humans are more than just weapons. We fight with something you can't measure, heart. The laughter in the chamber died down slightly, but there was still a sense of amusement in the air. The aliens couldn't take him seriously. They thought he was bluffing. A primitive species, armed with nothing but old rifles and outdated technology, standing against galactic empires with centuries of advanced weaponry. It was absurd. Heart? The Draxian general growled. What does that mean, human? You speak of heart as though it is a weapon. It is nothing. Noah remained calm. He had expected this. He had expected their laughter, their doubts. I didn't come here to fight with words, he said, his tone changing slightly. But I can show you. I can show you that humans are far more than the sum of their technology. The council's laughter began again, but this time it was more uncertain. There was something different about this human. He wasn't cowering. He wasn't pleading for mercy or respect. He stood there, unfazed, challenging them in a way none of them had expected. The leader of the council, a tall alien with silver fur and deep purple eyes, raised a hand to silence the room. Enough, we will settle this with action, he declared. We will give you a chance to prove yourself. If you believe your army is worth anything, we will allow you to demonstrate it. The chamber grew quiet. This was unexpected. The alien general's face twisted into a knowing smile. Very well, human. We will allow you to prove your worth. Bring your army here. We will see if they are anything but a joke." Noah's eyes narrowed. "You'll see," he said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. The council leader stood. "The arena is prepared. We'll see how strong your human army truly is. But remember, human, we won't be merciful." A shiver ran through the room as the alien's eyes turned cold. The council had already decided. This would be the ultimate test. Either the humans would prove their worth, or they would be crushed. As Noah turned to leave the chamber, the murmurs of the aliens followed him. Some were excited for the spectacle. Others were already preparing their bets on how quickly the humans would fail. Noah walked with steady steps, his face a mask of calm. Inside, however, his mind raced. He had one chance to prove humanity's strength, one chance to show the galaxy that they were not weak. He would not fail. The time had come. The human army would soon face the galaxy's greatest powers. The aliens would soon learn the true strength of the human spirit. This part introduces the conflict, establishes a strong hook, and sets up the tension for what's to come. It builds suspense while staying true to your requested style and tone. The challenge. The alien arena was massive, with towering walls that shimmered like a polished gemstone and a vast open space where battles were fought for the amusement of galactic beings. The air was thick with tension as Noah and his human soldiers stood at one end of the arena. On the other side, the alien forces gathered. The Draxian general towered over the humans, his massive frame covered in armor that looked like it could withstand an asteroid impact. His soldiers stood in formation, their weapons gleaming in the harsh light of the arena, ready to crush anything that stood in their way. The aliens laughed as they looked down at the humans, their weapons so primitive compared to the advanced technology of the other species. Noah glanced at his soldiers, each one a mix of fear and determination in their eyes. They knew they were outmatched, but they had something that the aliens didn't understand: human resilience. Noah's soldiers weren't going to back down. Not this time. They had been underestimated for too long, and now it was time to prove their worth. As the alien general called for the match to begin, the humans stood tall, despite the overwhelming odds against them. The alien forces were well equipped with powerful energy rifles, flying drones, and massive exoskeletons, while the humans had only their old-fashioned rifles and basic armor. The Draxian general sneered at them, watching as the human soldiers held their positions, not even flinching. "You think you can stand up to us with that?" The Draxian general taunted, his voice booming across the arena. "You're nothing but ants under our feet. Prepare to be crushed." Noah didn't respond. He simply gave the signal to his soldiers, and without hesitation, they moved into formation. It was a tactic the humans had perfected over the years, using their limited technology to their advantage. They didn't need the most powerful weapons to win. They just needed strategy, teamwork, and heart. The first volley of alien fire struck the ground around them, explosions rocking the arena. The human soldiers took cover, moving quickly and efficiently, despite the chaos surrounding them. They darted from one piece of cover to the next, their movements coordinated, like a well-oiled machine. The aliens watched in confusion as the humans didn't panic. They didn't scatter in fear. They were responding with purpose and precision. Noah's voice cut through the chaos, calm and clear. "Move out, secure the perimeter. We hold them." Here, the human soldiers moved as one, their determination shining through. They had trained for this moment, not to fight with technology but to fight with their minds and bodies. They knew how to read the battlefield, how to predict their enemies' moves, and how to use the environment to their advantage. The aliens might have superior technology, but they didn't have the human spirit, the ability to adapt and overcome. Every alien that advanced, a human soldier took them down. For every alien drone that soared above, a human sniper took aim and fired, hitting the target with deadly accuracy. The aliens began to realize that they had underestimated the humans. They were used to overwhelming their enemies with brute force, but the humans were different. They didn't give up. They didn't back down. They fought smarter. The Draxian general growled in frustration as his soldiers were pushed back, one by one. "How is this possible?" he muttered under his breath. "How can they fight like this with such primitive weapons?" The humans didn't respond to his question. They didn't need to. Instead, they kept advancing, pushing the alien forces further into the arena. They had learned one truth through countless battles. They didn't need the most powerful weapons to win. They just needed each other. The aliens began to falter, their confidence starting to crack as they realized they were losing to a species they had written off as weak. Noah could feel the shift in the atmosphere. The aliens were no longer laughing. They were no longer mocking. Their eyes widened with fear as they saw what the humans were capable of. The aliens had underestimated humanity's power, and now they were starting to pay the price. But the battle was far from over. The Draxian general, seeing his forces struggling, roared in anger. "This is impossible. You're not supposed to be able to do this. No species should be able to stand up to us." Noah kept his eyes on the battlefield. He could feel the weight of the moment, the pressure to prove humanity's worth. But he wasn't worried. He knew his soldiers. He knew that they had the strength to win. They just needed to stay focused, stay united. The aliens had underestimated the power of humanity's spirit, and now they were going to learn the hard way. As the battle raged on, the human soldiers continued to hold their ground. The alien forces were beginning to scatter, their once confident ranks falling apart as the humans pushed forward. Noah's plan was working. The aliens had thought they were facing easy prey, but now they were realizing the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was stronger than they could ever imagine. The arena fell into a stunned silence as the Draxian general and his soldiers began to retreat. The humans had done it. They had proven themselves. They had shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. The aliens had mocked their army, but now they were the ones on the defensive. The humans weren't just surviving, they were thriving. Noah turned to his soldiers, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. They had done it. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. This part builds on the suspense, with humans demonstrating their strength and intelligence, despite the overwhelming odds. It also sets up the pivotal moment where the aliens begin to realize their mistake in underestimating humanity. The first strike, the aliens were not prepared for this. They had thought the humans would fall quickly, that their old-fashioned rifles and basic tactics would be no match for the advanced technology and brutal strength of their forces. But what they didn't know was that humanity didn't rely solely on technology. Humans were clever. They adapted, they learned, and most importantly, they never gave up. Noah stood at the front of the human forces, his eyes scanning the battlefield as the battle raged around him. He watched his soldiers work together, coordinating their every move. It was more than just training, it was instinct. The humans weren't just fighting to survive, they were fighting to prove something. They were fighting for their planet, their people, and for the respect they deserved. The Draxian general, once confident and proud, was now visibly shaken. His troops, once the epitome of strength and power, were now struggling to keep up with the relentless assault of the human soldiers. The aliens had expected an easy victory, but now they found themselves facing a foe that refused to be intimidated. A massive alien warship hovered above the battlefield, its weapons locked and ready to fire. The humans had been holding their ground, but the alien forces had just begun to unleash their full power. They had no choice but to face the warship head-on. The ship fired a barrage of laser blasts, each one capable of decimating entire buildings. In a single strike, the ground trembled as explosions rocked the arena. Aliens screamed as they were thrown off their feet, their bodies disintegrating under the intense heat. But despite the overwhelming firepower, the humans didn't retreat. They pressed forward, using the chaos to their advantage. Some soldiers hid behind rocks and debris, while others used makeshift explosives to disable the warship's weapons. They had no advanced technology to fight against such a powerful weapon, but they had ingenuity. Noah's voice rang out over the battlefield, commanding his soldiers to stay focused. "We're not backing down now. Keep pushing forward. We have one chance to show them what we're made of." The human soldiers, tired and battered, nodded without hesitation. They moved as one, using their environment to hide and strike with precision. The alien warship continued its assault, but it was clear that it was losing its effectiveness. The humans were adapting, finding weaknesses in the ship's defense systems and using their basic tools to exploit them. The aliens had underestimated the humans' resourcefulness, and now they were paying the price. The Draxian general, realizing that his ship was being disabled by the humans' guerrilla tactics, issued a new order: send in the heavy ground forces. Massive war machines, towering over the humans, stomped into the arena. Their weapons were powerful enough to obliterate everything in their path. The humans had fought bravely, but they were now facing the true might of the alien forces. Noah watched as the alien machines advanced, their weapons primed and ready to fire. His soldiers were outnumbered, but they weren't afraid. They had already proven their strength. Now they would show the galaxy the true power of humanity. Noah clenched his fist. "Prepare yourselves. We fight until the end." The humans took their positions, making sure that every soldier was in the perfect spot. The ground trembled as the alien machines moved forward, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. The battle had reached its peak, and the humans had nowhere to run. But they weren't afraid. They had nothing to lose. With a loud roar, the first alien machine fired, sending a stream of fire toward the human lines. The humans responded with precision. A team of soldiers launched a series of grenades, knocking out the legs of one of the machines. It crashed to the ground with a deafening thud. Another machine fired, but a human sniper took it down with a well-placed shot. The aliens were starting to lose control. The Draxian general watched in disbelief as his machines fell one by one. He had never seen anything like this before. How were the humans able to stand up to such firepower? How were they able to outthink and outfight the mightiest of armies? The answer was simple. Humanity fought with heart. They didn't rely on weapons alone. They relied on each other, on their will to survive, and on their unbreakable spirit. The humans weren't afraid of the alien machines, nor were they afraid of death. They had faced their own challenges and emerged victorious. This was no different. Noah's soldiers continued to push forward, their victory becoming inevitable. The aliens had underestimated them at every turn, thinking they could easily crush the humans. But now, as the alien forces began to retreat, it was clear that the tide had turned. The humans had shown them that strength wasn't just about advanced technology. It was about unity, resourcefulness, and the will to fight for what was right. The Draxian general, his pride shattered, ordered a full retreat. His army, once so confident, was now in disarray. The humans had won. They had proven that no matter how advanced the enemy, no matter how powerful their weapons, the human spirit could never be defeated. Noah looked around at his soldiers, their faces filled with exhaustion, but also with a sense of pride. They had done it. The aliens had mocked them, but now they would know the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy would never underestimate them again. This part builds on the action, showing how the humans use strategy and ingenuity to overcome the alien forces. The Draxians' confidence is shattered, and humanity's strength is revealed through their actions. The unseen strength. The battle had reached a turning point. The alien forces, once sure of their victory, now found themselves fighting for survival. The humans were everywhere, their strategy impossible to predict, their every move. A shock to the alien commanders. The Draxian general had never experienced anything like this. He had seen battles with far more advanced species, yet none had fought with the same relentless spirit and cunning as the humans. Noah stood at the front, watching his soldiers move in perfect coordination. They had no fancy technology, no super-powered weapons, but they had something far more valuable: unity. The humans worked together as a single unit, each soldier watching the back of the other, anticipating movements and adjusting their tactics. On the fly. Their old rifles had proven surprisingly effective, each shot carefully aimed, each movement precise. It wasn't the weapons that made them powerful, it was the heart behind each action. The Draxian general ordered his remaining forces to regroup. The once confident alien soldiers, now disoriented and frightened, tried to reorganize, but the humans didn't give them a chance. Every time the aliens tried to form a defensive line, the humans broke it apart with ease. The human soldiers moved with purpose, with unwavering focus. They were hunting, and the aliens were the prey. The aliens began to realize that they weren't facing a typical army. The humans didn't follow predictable tactics. They weren't afraid to take risks. They didn't rely solely on firepower. Instead, they used their brains, their ingenuity, and their determination to win. The Draxian general cursed under his breath as his soldiers fell one by one. He had underestimated the humans, and now it was too late. In the midst of the chaos, a small group of humans led by Noah infiltrated the alien command center. It was a bold move, one that many would have considered insane, but the humans didn't hesitate. They understood something that the aliens never could. The key to victory was not just in defeating the enemy's army, but in breaking their spirit. The human soldiers moved through the alien base with surprising speed, using their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. They avoided the alien patrols, slipping through the shadows and taking out any threats before they could even react. The aliens, still reeling from their unexpected defeat in the field, were too distracted to notice the humans closing in on their command center. Noah and his team reached the heart of the alien base, where the command center stood guarded by the most advanced security systems the Draxians could muster. But it didn't matter. The humans had learned how to use the simplest tools to disable the alien defenses. They weren't relying on brute force. They were relying on their intelligence, their ability to adapt to any situation. As the humans breached the command center, the Draxian general received the news of their intrusion. Panic set in. He ordered his soldiers to fall back and protect the command center at all costs, but it was too late. Noah and his team had already taken control, and the remaining alien forces were scattered. The humans had infiltrated their heart, and with it, they had broken the Draxians' will to fight. The aliens were no longer fighting for conquest. They were fighting to escape. The humans, once dismissed as weak and primitive, had turned the tide of the battle. The Draxians had underestimated them in every way, and now they were paying the price. Noah looked around at his soldiers. Their faces were covered in dirt and sweat, their bodies bruised and battered, but their eyes were filled with fire. They had come here to prove that humanity was not weak, that they were a force to be reckoned with, and they had done it. The aliens who had laughed at them, who had mocked their weapons and their technology, were now retreating, and the humans stood victorious. But no one knew this victory wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity was more than a species that could be dismissed. They were a species that could stand toe-to-toe with the greatest powers in the universe and come out on top. They were a species that didn't need the most advanced technology to win. They just needed each other. As the last of the alien forces fled the battlefield, Noah stood tall, his eyes scanning the horizon. The humans had proven their strength, their resilience, and their unity. The galaxy would never look at them the same way again. They had shown that no matter how powerful the enemy, humanity would always find a way to survive, to fight back, and to win. The Draxian general, his face twisted with rage, retreated with the remnants of his forces, knowing that this was a defeat they could never recover from. The humans had shattered their confidence, and that was something that no amount of firepower could fix. Noah turned to his soldiers, his voice steady but filled with pride. "We've done it. We've shown them what we're made of. Now we make sure the galaxy knows. Humanity is not to be underestimated. The humans had done the impossible. They had proven that their strength wasn't in their weapons or their technology, it was in their hearts." And as the alien forces retreated into the shadows, humanity stood tall, knowing that they had won not just a battle, but the respect of the galaxy. In this part, the humans' true strength is revealed through strategy, intelligence, and unity, shattering the Draxian general's confidence and showing the aliens that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. The momentum continues to shift in favor of the humans as the battle progresses. The turning point, the battlefield, was a mess of destruction and chaos. The once proud alien forces, so confident in their superiority, were now scattered and disorganized. Their massive war machines, which had once been a symbol of their power, lay in ruin across the field. The humans had pushed them back further than anyone had thought possible, and now the Draxians were retreating. But no one knew this wasn't over. He could feel it in the air. The aliens weren't giving up just yet. In the distance, the last of the Draxian fleet hovered above, preparing to make one final stand. The alien general had ordered a regrouping of their forces. They had retreated to their ships and were calling for reinforcements. They still had power, and they weren't going to let the humans have an easy victory. But Noah's soldiers were ready. They had come this far, and they weren't about to stop now. Noah stood tall, his gaze fixed on the sky. He knew this would be the final test. The humans had proven their strength, but now they would have to face the full might of the Draxian fleet. The aliens had learned their lesson too late. Underestimating humanity was their greatest mistake. The humans had proven their resilience and resourcefulness, but now they had to show that they could stand against the most advanced weaponry the galaxy had to offer. The sky above crackled with energy as the Draxian fleet descended, their ships descending like vultures preparing to strike. The humans, having already fought off waves of alien soldiers, now faced their most formidable challenge. But Noah didn't flinch. His soldiers were battle-hardened. They were ready to face whatever came next. The fight wasn't over, not yet. "Hold your positions," Noah ordered, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "This is it. We push through and show them that humanity doesn't back down." The humans dug in, taking cover behind the remnants of destroyed war machines and structures. The Draxian fleet hovered above, launching blasts of energy down at the humans below. Each blast hit with the force of a small bomb, sending shockwaves through the earth. The humans returned fire, their rifles and rockets causing sparks to fly. As they hit the alien ships, the battle seemed impossible. The Draxian ships were massive, their weapons capable of wiping out entire armies in seconds. But the humans had something the aliens didn't have: determination. With every blast that hit their lines, the humans fought harder. They moved with purpose, firing their weapons and coordinating their attacks. Each soldier knew their role, and each one was willing to give everything they had to secure victory. Noah's eyes narrowed as the Draxian fleet began to circle, preparing to unleash a final wave of destruction. This was it. They were going to make their last stand. The aliens thought they had the advantage, but they didn't know what the humans were capable of. They hadn't seen the real strength of humanity yet. They hadn't seen the way humans could come together in the face of impossible odds. The Draxian general, sitting in the control room of one of the flagship ships, watched as the humans continued to fight back, their resistance stronger than ever. He clenched his fists in frustration. How were they doing this? How could they stand up to such overwhelming power? His ships were supposed to be unstoppable. His forces should have crushed the humans in minutes, but here they were, still fighting, still refusing to back down. Noah watched as the alien ships gathered above them. He knew they were preparing for their final assault. But he also knew this was his moment. This was the moment when humanity would prove to the galaxy that they were more than just a weak, primitive species. They were something more. They were a force of nature, now. Noah shouted to his soldiers, his voice cutting through the roar of the battlefield. He knew this would be their one chance to strike back. The human forces launched their final counterattack, sending rockets and explosives toward the alien ships, aiming for weak points in their armor. The Draxian fleet tried to respond, but it was too late. The humans had already found their opening. Explosions rocked the alien ships as their systems began to fail. The once mighty fleet was now falling apart, one ship at a time. The aliens had underestimated the humans again, and now they were paying for it. The Draxian general watched in horror as his fleet was decimated by the humans' unrelenting assault. "No," the general muttered, his voice filled with disbelief. "This can't be happening. This wasn't supposed to happen, but it was happening." The Draxians were losing, and the humans were winning. The general had no choice but to order a retreat. His fleet, once so mighty, was now in shambles. The humans had shown them what true strength was, and it wasn't in their technology or weapons. It was in their will to fight, their refusal to give up. As the last of the Draxian ships retreated into the sky, Noah stood tall, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The battle was over. The humans had won. But more than that, they had proven themselves. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was not weak. They were not a species to be dismissed or underestimated. They were a species that would rise to any challenge, no matter the odds. Noah turned to his soldiers, his heart swelling with pride. "We did it," he said simply. "We showed them who we are." The humans had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. They had proven that their strength wasn't in their technology, but in their unity, their determination, and their unyielding spirit. The galaxy would never forget the day they learned not to mock humanity. In this part, the battle reaches its climax with the Draxian fleet making one final assault. The humans, using their strength, unity, and will to fight, prove once again that they are a force to be reckoned with. The turning point shows that humanity's strength lies not in their weapons but in their spirit and resolve. The final showdown. The atmosphere in the arena had shifted completely. What began as a battle of mockery and disbelief had turned into a war for survival. The Draxian forces, once confident in their overwhelming superiority, were now fractured and broken. The humans had proven themselves time and time again, showing that their strength wasn't in advanced technology, but in something far more powerful, their will to fight. But as the last remnants of the Draxian fleet retreated into the sky, Noah knew that the final test was yet to come. The aliens might be fleeing now, but they would not forget the humiliation. They would return. Noah stood tall, his mind racing with the weight of what had happened. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The galaxy had watched, and now the Draxians would know the true cost of underestimating humanity. They would regroup, they would adapt, and when they came back, they would be stronger. But so would the humans. The victory was theirs, but Noah understood the fight was far from finished. The humans had given everything in this battle. Their soldiers were bruised, battered, and exhausted. But they had held their ground, and they had proved something the galaxy had never seen before. As the last alien warships disappeared into the distance, the humans stood victorious, their eyes filled with determination. But then something unexpected happened. A new ship appeared in the sky, not one of the Draxians, but something even larger. It was a massive ship, its design unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The sleek, black vessel cut through the atmosphere with ease, its size alone enough to make the ground tremble beneath the human soldiers' feet. The ship hovered over the battlefield, casting a long shadow over the human forces. Noah narrowed his eyes, instinctively reaching for his communicator. "What is that?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with caution. The response came in a cold, mechanical tone. "It's a Draxian warlord, the general's last weapon. It's not just another ship. It's a battleship unlike anything we've seen before," the officer replied. Noah's grip tightened around the communicator. This was the final challenge. The Draxians had underestimated humanity once, but they would not make the same mistake twice. The ship above them was a symbol of their failure, their desperation to reclaim control. The humans had won the battle, but now they had to prove they could stand against the full force of their enemy. The massive ship descended slowly, its dark hull reflecting the distant light of the planet's twin moons. It was intimidating, but Noah didn't flinch. He had faced the impossible before, now was no different. He looked at his soldiers, their tired faces still filled with resolve. "We've fought too hard to let this moment slip away," Noah said, his voice clear and firm. "We've shown them we're not weak. Now let's show them we can take on whatever they throw at us." The human soldiers gathered their remaining strength. They had no choice but to face the warlord's ship head-on. The Draxians had brought their best, but they had no idea how powerful the human spirit could be when it was pushed to its limits. The humans were not just fighting to survive, they were fighting to protect their home, their people, and the future of their species. As the battleship landed, its immense size casting a long shadow over the humans below, the Draxian warlord emerged from the ship. He was a massive figure, towering over the humans, his armor gleaming under the moonlight. He raised his arms, and his soldiers followed, ready to engage in one final assault. The ground rumbled as the Draxian forces gathered, their weapons primed for destruction. The warlord's voice boomed across the battlefield, full of contempt. "You think you've won? You think you've beaten us? This is just the beginning. The galaxy will bow to the Draxian Empire, and you will fall." But Noah stood firm, his soldiers standing beside him. "You've already lost," Noah replied, his voice cutting through the tension. "This isn't about your technology or your weapons. It's about who we are, and we're not going anywhere." The final confrontation had begun. The human forces, battered but unbroken, prepared for the ultimate showdown. They had no super weapons, no advanced ships, but they had something the Draxians would never understand: heart, unity, and the determination to protect everything they held dear. The warlord's forces charged forward, their weapons blazing with deadly force. The humans fought back with everything they had, their rifles blazing, their grenades exploding in the alien ranks. The battle was fierce, each moment pushing the humans to their limits. The warlord's ship continued to unleash fire from above, but the humans used their speed and agility to stay one step ahead. Noah led the charge, his soldiers following him with unwavering loyalty. They fought as one, their movements in sync, their attacks precise. The alien forces were relentless, but the humans were just as determined. They had nothing to lose, and they weren't going to back down. The warlord, watching the battle unfold, growled in frustration. His forces were falling apart. His ship, once a symbol of invincibility, was losing its strength. The humans had shown him something the Draxians had never seen before: the power of unity, of fighting for something greater than themselves. With one final push, the humans overwhelmed the warlord's forces. The Draxian warlord, now realizing the depth of his mistake, ordered a retreat. His once mighty forces, defeated and broken, fled the battlefield. The humans had done it. They had proven once again that no matter the odds, no matter the enemy, they would stand tall. Noah stood among his soldiers, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. The Draxians had learned the hard way that humanity was not weak. They were not a species to be mocked or underestimated. The humans had shown the galaxy their strength, their resolve, and their unbreakable spirit. The battle was over. The humans had won.